The human girl's blood pooled on the alien ship's deck as the vicious Valdan warriors pulled their blades from her lifeless body, exchanging looks of puzzlement when they noticed her species. Little did they realize their fatal mistake would soon bring the full wrath of humanity crashing down upon them. Captain Donald Morris's knuckles whitened as he gripped the armrests of his command chair, jaw clenched tight, listening to the desperate plea from Councillor Marek. The battle-tested officer had never heard a Jem'Hadar sound so utterly broken, so devoid of hope. "This is Councillor Marek to any humans receiving this transmission. Our species faces extinction at the hands of the Valdan. We humbly request your aid. You are our last hope against their onslaught. If the Valdan are not stopped, their campaign of death will consume the galaxy. I am sending coordinates. Help us, please." Morris leaned forward. "Ensign, set a course for those coordinates, max speed." As his ship tore through hyperspace, the captain reviewed the scant intel on their mysterious adversary. These Valdan. If the reports were to be believed, the enemy possessed technology beyond any known race. Morris cracked a grim smile. Good. He didn't want this to be too easy. The veteran officer stood tall before his crew, his voice unwavering. "Listen up. The Jem'Hadar are on the precipice of annihilation. The Valdan mean to wipe them out entirely. Then they'll steamroll over everyone else. But not on our watch. We're going to hit the Valdan hard and send them running." He met the eyes of each crew member. "I won't lie, this won't be a cakewalk. The Valdan are more advanced than us. But they've never tangled with humans before. They're about to learn that we don't roll over for anyone. Humanity doesn't back down, doesn't surrender, and we sure as hell don't lose. Let's move out. We have a galaxy to save." Morris sat back down. This was humanity's chance to show the galaxy what they were made of, to prove that when the fate of entire species were on the line, when genocidal forces threatened the cosmos, it was humans who answered the call, who stood firm against impossible odds and triumphed. The captain's face hardened into a mask of resolve as he stared out into the swirling eddies of hyperspace. The Valdan had signed their own death warrants the moment they spilled human blood. Now there would be a reckoning, and the galaxy would bear witness to the indomitable human spirit, as it had so many times before. The human ship emerged from hyperspace, arriving at the coordinates provided by Councillor Marek. The view that greeted them was one of utter devastation. The Jem'Hadar colony, once a thriving hub of activity, had been reduced to smouldering ruins. Buildings lay in charred heaps, and the lifeless bodies of Jem'Hadar warriors littered the surface. Captain Morris's face hardened as he surveyed the grim scene. A faint distress signal caught their attention, emanating from a collapsed structure nearby. Morris wasted no time in assembling a team to investigate. As they approached the ruins, the signal grew stronger. The team began to dig through the rubble, desperate to find any survivors. After several tense minutes, they uncovered a group of badly injured Jem'Hadar, including Councillor Marek himself. The once proud warrior was barely clinging to life, his body broken and bleeding. Morris knelt beside him, offering what comfort he could. As he scanned the area, Morris's eyes fell upon a sight that made his blood run cold. Among the debris lay the body of a young human girl, no more than 15 years old. Her tattered uniform bore the insignia of the Galactic Council's diplomatic corps. Marek, struggling to speak, revealed that the girl's name was Emily. She had been a prodigy, the youngest human ever assigned as a diplomat to the Jem'Hadar. When the Valdan launched their attack, Emily had fought bravely alongside the Jem'Hadar warriors. Despite her youth, she had shown courage beyond her years, but in the end, she had fallen in the crossfire, another casualty in the Valdan's relentless onslaught. Morris clenched his fists, rage and sorrow warring within him. The loss of such a young and promising life was a blow to them all. In that moment, he made a silent vow to avenge Emily's death and protect the remaining Jem'Hadar survivors. The crew sprang into action, providing medical aid to the injured and setting up a temporary shelter. As they worked, Morris established a comlink with Galactic Council headquarters to report on the situation and request reinforcements. But the response he received was not what he expected. The Council, in a shocking display of cowardice, had declared the Jem'Hadar a lost cause. They ordered all ships to withdraw from the area immediately, abandoning the survivors to their fate. Morris's jaw tightened as he processed the Council's words. They wanted him to turn his back on the Jem'Hadar, to leave them to face the Valdan alone. But Morris was not a man to run from a fight, especially not when innocent lives were at stake. He made his decision in an instant. To hell with the Council's orders. He would stand with the Jem'Hadar no matter the cost. They were going to face the Valdan head-on and show them what happened when you messed with humanity. As Morris and his crew dug in, fortifying their makeshift base and tending to the wounded Jem'Hadar, the ship's sensors suddenly pinged with an alert. A Valdan scout ship had entered the system, no doubt investigating the colony's sudden loss of contact. Morris's mind raced, formulating a plan. They needed intel on their enemy, and this scout ship provided the perfect opportunity. He turned to Lieutenant Commander Jack Hawkins, his trusted second-in-command, and Torak, Councillor Marrick's son, and a skilled Jem'Hadar warrior. "Hawkins, Torak, you're with me. We're going to capture that scout ship and find out what the Valdan are up to," Morris said, his voice filled with determination. The three of them geared up, checking their weapons and equipment. They had to be stealthy and quick if they wanted to pull this off. As the scout ship descended to the planet's surface, Morris and his team moved out, using the ruined buildings as cover. They crept closer to the landing site, watching as the Valdan crew disembarked to survey the area. Torak's eyes narrowed. "I count 4 of them, Captain. 2 by the ship, 2 scouting the perimeter." Morris nodded. "We'll need to take them out quietly. Hawkins, you're on overwatch. Torak and I will handle the ones by the ship." With a silent signal, they sprang into action. Hawkins took up position, his sniper rifle at the ready. Morris and Torak moved in, their footsteps light and quick. They closed in on the 2 Valdan by the ship, who were too focused on their scans to notice the approaching danger. In a blur of motion, Morris and Torak struck, subduing the aliens with precise blows and rendering them unconscious. At the same moment, Hawkins took out the other 2 with clean headshots, their bodies crumpling to the ground before they even knew what hit them. The team quickly dragged the unconscious Valdan into the scout ship, securing them in the holding cells. Morris made his way to the ship's computer, his fingers flying over the unfamiliar controls as he searched for any useful data. What he found made his blood run cold. The Valdan had attacked the Jem'Hadar colony, not just for its resources, but because they had discovered something about Emily, the young human diplomat who had been killed in the attack. She had possessed a rare genetic mutation, one that granted her extraordinary abilities. The Valdan had sought to capture her, to harvest her DNA and use it to create a new breed of super-soldiers. Morris slammed his fist against the console, his anger boiling over. The Valdan's cruelty knew no bounds. They had to be stopped, no matter the cost. He quickly downloaded the data onto a portable drive, along with any other useful information he could find. They needed to get this back to the ship and start analyzing it right away. As they raced back to their own vessel, Morris's mind was already working overtime, trying to figure out their next move. They had the Valdan's technology now, and with any luck, they could reverse engineer it, upgrade their own weapons and defenses. But even as they began their work, an incoming transmission stopped Morris in his tracks. It was from a covert human intelligence operative, deep behind enemy lines. The operative's words were chilling. The Valdan had been experimenting on humans for years, long before they ever attacked the Jem'Hadar. Emily's genetic mutation was just the beginning. They were on the verge of creating an army of genetically enhanced soldiers, one that could threaten the entire galaxy. In that moment, the weight of their mission truly hit Morris. This wasn't just about saving the Jem'Hadar anymore. This was about the fate of all humanity, of every species in the galaxy. If the Valdan succeeded, it would mean a catastrophic shift in the balance of power, one that they might never recover from. Morris looked around at his crew, at the determined faces of the humans and Jem'Hadar who had chosen to stand and fight. They were all that stood between the Valdan and galactic domination. Captain Morris gathered his crew in the briefing room, his eyes hard with resolve. "We have a chance to strike a crippling blow against the Valdan," he said, his voice steady. "Thanks to the intel we've gathered, we've located a key research facility where they're conducting their genetic experiments. This is where we hit them, and hit them hard." He brought up a holographic display of the facility, highlighting key points. "We'll launch a two-pronged assault. Hawkins, you and Torak will lead a diversionary attack, drawing out their forces. Meanwhile, I'll take a small team and infiltrate the facility itself. We'll plant explosives at critical junctures and destroy it from within." Dr. Evelyn Chen, the ship's brilliant xenogeneticist, stepped forward. "Captain, let me come with you. If we can access their research data, it could give us insight into their genetic enhancements, maybe even a way to counter them." Morris nodded. "Agreed. Sergeant Reeves, you're with us as well. Your combat experience will be invaluable." The Marine cracked his knuckles. "Ready and willing, sir." The teams geared up, checking weapons and equipment. The infiltration team boarded a cloaked shuttle, slipping away from the main ship undetected. As they descended towards the planet's surface, Morris could see the diversionary attack already underway, explosions blossoming in the distance as Hawkins and Torak engaged the Valdan forces. They landed in a secluded area near the research facility, the shuttle's camouflage rendering it nearly invisible. Morris led the way, his weapon at the ready, as they approached the towering structure. "Chen, you're up," he whispered as they reached a heavily fortified door. The doctor stepped forward, her fingers flying over the keypad. In moments, the door slid open with a hiss. They moved swiftly through the corridors, taking out guards with silent efficiency. Morris planted explosives at key structural points, while Chen worked to hack into the facility's main database. Deeper they pushed into the facility, the sterile white walls giving way to dimly lit cavernous laboratories. And there, in those twisted chambers, they found something that made even the battle-hardened soldiers recoil in horror. In tanks and cages, abominations writhed and snarled, hideous creatures that seemed to be a nightmarish fusion of human, Valdan, and other alien species. The Valdan had not just been experimenting on humans, they had been playing God, creating monsters. "My God," Chen whispered, her face pale. "This is beyond anything I could have imagined." A guttural roar shook the room as one of the creatures broke free of its restraints, its misshapen form lunging towards them with murderous intent. Sergeant Reeves was there in an instant, his weapon roaring as he put the beast down with a barrage of fire. But more were coming, alerted by the noise. Morris could hear them, an unholy chorus of shrieks and howls drawing nearer. "Chen, tell me you have that data," he yelled over the cacophony. "Almost there," she shouted back, her voice strained. "Got it." "Then let's move on," Morris ordered, laying down a suppressing fire as they began their fighting retreat. They had what they came for. Now they just had to survive long enough to use it. But the abominations were relentless, driven by a ferocity that was utterly inhuman. They swarmed towards the team, heedless of the bullets tearing into their twisted flesh. Morris and his team fought with every ounce of skill and determination they possessed, the confined spaces of the laboratories becoming a brutal, close-quarters battleground. Claws raked against armor, teeth snapped mere inches from throats, and all the while, the countdown of the explosives ticked away, a promise of impending destruction. They burst out into the corridor, racing towards their extraction point as the facility shuddered around them. The explosives' detonations ripping through its structure. The ground bucked and heaved beneath their feet, throwing them off balance. A clawed hand grabbed at Chen's ankle, tripping her. She hit the ground hard, the breath driven from her lungs. The creature loomed over her, its malformed jaws opening wide, until a burst of gunfire tore into its skull, spattering the walls with ichor. Morris hauled the doctor to her feet, his weapon smoking. "I've got you," he reassured her as they ran on, the countdown nearing its end. They could see the extraction point ahead, the cloaked shuttle shimmering into view as it dropped its camouflage. But the roar of engines filled the air, Valdan ships descending from the sky, alerted by the facility's distress signals. They had only moments before the full might of the Valdan military would be upon them. Morris's team raced through the crumbling corridors of the Valdan research facility, the heat of the explosions singeing their skin. Twisted creatures and Valdan's soldiers poured from every corner, their weapons spitting deadly energy bolts. "Keep moving," Morris roared, his rifle barking as he cut down a lunging monstrosity. Dr. Chen clutched the data drive containing the Valdan's research close to her chest, her face a mask of concentration as she dodged and weaved through the chaos. A Valdan soldier loomed up before her, his blade slashing down, but Chen was quicker. She ducked under the blow and drove her knee into the alien's gut, sending him sprawling. But more were coming, an endless tide of foes. A crackling bolt struck Chen in the back, sending her stumbling. She cried out in pain, the data drive tumbling from her grasp. "Chen!" Morris bellowed, blasting his way to her side. He scooped up the data drive and hauled the injured doctor to her feet, half carrying, half dragging her towards the exit. Sergeant Reeves covered their retreat, his heavy weapon roaring as he laid down a suppressing fire. "Go!" he shouted over the din of battle. "I'll hold them off." Morris hesitated for a split second, then nodded. He knew Reeves would buy them the time they needed, even at the cost of his own life. With a final, grateful look, Morris pulled Chen onwards, the explosions growing louder as the countdown neared 0. They burst from the facility mere moments before it erupted in a massive fireball, the shockwave hurling them to the ground. Morris shielded Chen with his body as debris rained down around them, the heat searing his back. In the distance, he could see the diversionary attack still raging. Hawkins and Torak's forces locked in a desperate battle with the Valdan. The diversion had worked, drawing the bulk of the enemy forces away, but the cost had been high. The ground was littered with the bodies of fallen Jem'Hadar warriors, and even from here Morris could see that Torak was badly wounded, his arm hanging limp at his side. Morris pulled Chen to her feet, the doctor's face ashen, her breath coming in ragged gasps. They stumbled towards the extraction point, each step an agony. As they reached the shuttle, a transmission crackled over the comms. It was the Galactic Council. Reinforcements were on their way, the full might of the allied races finally mobilizing to face the Valdan threat. But even as relief washed over Morris, he felt a growing sense of unease. Chen was fading fast, her wounds too severe. She pressed the data drive into his hands, her eyes urgent. "Take it," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the roar of the shuttle's engines. "The key to stopping them, it's all there." Morris gripped the drive tightly, his heart heavy as he watched the life drain from Chen's eyes. She had given everything to secure this vital intelligence, and he would not let her sacrifice be in vain. But as he reviewed the data, Morris's blood ran cold. The Valdan's experiments, their genetically modified soldiers, they were far more advanced than anyone had realized, an unstoppable army of super soldiers, ready to be unleashed on the galaxy. If the Valdan got their hands on this research, Morris's thoughts raced, a desperate plan forming in his mind. There was only one way to ensure the Valdan never got this data, only one way to stop their monstrous ambitions. He turned to his crew, his face grim. "There's something you need to know," he said, his voice heavy with emotion. "During the mission I was infected with a virus, a Valdan failsafe, designed to stop their secrets from falling into enemy hands. I don't have long." The crew stared at him in shock, their faces a mix of horror and grief. But Morris pressed on, his resolve hardening. "I'm going to upload the data to the Council, along with a warning about the Valdan's plans, and then I'm going to end this, once and for all." He outlined his plan, ignoring the protests of his crew. They would get the data to safety, get the survivors out. He would take the ship, loaded with every scrap of ordnance they had left, and ram it straight into the heart of the Valdan Empire. Their central command station, a massive space fortress from which they directed their armies. It was a suicide mission, and they all knew it. But there was no other choice, no other way to stop the Valdan's madness. As the shuttle carrying his crew and the survivors sped away, Morris sat in the command chair of his ship, his fingers flying over the controls. He uploaded the data, sent his final message to the Council. And then, with a deep breath, he pointed his ship towards the looming shape of the Valdan station and gunned the engines. The Valdan saw him coming, of course. Their ships swarmed around him, their weapons hammering at his shields. But Morris didn't slow, didn't falter. He ploughed onwards, a grim smile on his face as his ship shuddered and bucked under the onslaught. Alarms blared, consoles sparked and smoked, but still he pushed forward. The station filled his view screen, growing larger with each passing second. The Valdan were in a frenzy now, desperate to stop him, but it was too late, far too late. Morris closed his eyes in the final moments, picturing the faces of his crew, of Chen, of Reeves, of all those who had given their lives in this battle. "This is for you," he whispered. "For all of you." And then, with a blinding flash of light and a roar that seemed to shake the very fabric of space, Morris's ship slammed into the station. The explosion was cataclysmic, a seething ball of fire and debris that engulfed the station, the surrounding ships, everything. When the flames cleared, the station was gone. The Valdan fleet was in ruins, their command structure decapitated in one fell swoop. Against all odds, against the might of a ruthless, galaxy-spanning empire, one human had turned the tide. The galaxy had been saved, but the cost had been immense. Morris, Chen, Reeves, and countless others had laid down their lives to stop the Valdan's reign of terror. But their sacrifice would not be forgotten. The Galactic Council vowed to honor their memory, to ensure that their legacy endured. And on 100 worlds, in 1,000 languages, one name was spoken with reverence, with awe, with gratitude. The name of a hero, a legend, a shining example of the indomitable human spirit. The name of Captain Donald Morris. You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.